The Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. With your hosts, Joe Bond.
You're awful.
And AJ Applegarth.
It's Sin Shu Chu. It's a mouthful.
All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual, my co-host, AJ Applegarth. What is up, man?
Just another interesting day in the life that I lead.
I was going to say, I mean, we're 20 minutes late, but this is actually like a legit excuse. So
yeah,
this
was,
man. Like
I did get home right at 9, and I was like, okay.
I figured
get
you
my
would
beer,
need some time to get rolling.
Take a leak, get my shirt, and let's go.
We good, man. We good. All right, so tonight we're going to be covering the NFC East fantasy football preview. But before we jump into that, got a couple things to remind you guys about. Hit that subscribe button, those like buttons, those follow buttons. Leave those comments, those reviews. We appreciate it. And also, just if you guys are not aware, if you want access to our award-winning advice, guys, we've got guys that have ranked in the top 10, the top 20, the top 5 in Fantasy Pros multiple years in draft rankings. If you want direct access to us, Discord, and all of our advice on Fantasy Six Pack, we've got some memberships available. FantasySixPack.net/plans. You can use promo code F6P early. Get 25% off. The first 100 people who sign up with that code are going to get 25% off. After that, you're not going to get that. So go ahead and hit those up, and hope to see you on our Discord channel. But let's bring in our guest of honor this night, and it is Herms at Herms NFL, featured writer over on Fantasy Pros. We got the Lateral Fantasy Football Podcast, producer of the Debbie Royale. He's all over the place, man. He's a fun guy. Happy to have him here. He did bounce from our he did bounce from our Scott Fishbowl division, but that's a good reason why, I suppose. What's going on tonight, man?
Hello! What is up, everybody? Fantasy Six-Pack! Yeah! It's Herms, baby! Hello!
What up?
Now that's an entrance, AJ. Where's that energy all
I need a kazoo. I mean,
all right, man.
Probably one of my top 2 favorite instruments to play with my mouth, and I just need to get one.
I mean, that was pretty fantastic.
That's fantastic.
We're just gonna bring you in every week to introduce us, and then we'll be like, see you later, Herms. Bye.
Sure, I got you. No problem at all.
Every Thursday, 9-ish, just come and introduce us, and then you can go do about your business. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, man. So yeah, we are here to talk some NFC East, but before we do that, let's get to my favorite segment, and that's Beer of the Week.
Beer.
All right, so as we told you before the show, it doesn't have to be beer, just whatever you're drinking. So, Herms, you are the guest for the night, so let us know what you got.
I am known in these streets as somebody who really enjoys the Budweiser Mango Rita because it is inexpensive and 8% alcohol. So that is
that's right up our alley. If you've watched this show before, 8%ers are right up our alley. So, AJ, what you got?
I have one in front of me. Actually, it is a 8.6 from. Shout out to my 102, Mr. Jeff Sanders, for going up to Boston last weekend and stopping at Treehouse, picking up some brews. So very happy to have a very hazy. Can't wait.
I still hate you for drinking.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a couple others. Maybe I'll loan you one.
No, you're not. I wouldn't. I don't blame you. All right, so I'm drinking an Elder Pine.
Definitely need a kazoo now.
Less than 8. This is called Awake on the Forest Floor. They have other versions of it called Asleep on the Forest Floor. And I believe they have like a double, which is like, I don't know if it's called like.
I fell off the 4th floor.
Who knows? I don't know, but this is
down the stairs, and now I'm on the first.
It's pretty good. I believe I gave it a 4 on Untapped, but let me just remind myself.
Let me think again. Yes,
pretty solid.
Still
it's a 4 for me on Untapped, 4 out of 5. So good stuff there. All right, Herms, let's jump into things here, and
first things first.
Have the floor, man.
All right. Well, first things first. I have I have to make a pick in the Scott Fish.
Ooh.
So I don't know where to go at this point. Yeah, it is Pangs.
Hello.
It is Pangs. So I'm looking my squad so far here, if I can
like and Jules
figure out how to get to that draft results. Okay.
What are we doing here?
I don't know. I'm just wasting time per usual. I've got Hurts, I've got Stafford, I've got Mixon, I've got Javonte, I've got the stack with AJ Brown, I've got Sutton, Damian Harris, and Elijah Moore. So no tight end yet in the tight end premium league. Smart. I don't know. I kind of want to either do fourth receiver or 4th running back.
I mean,
or go tight end. I mean,
you'd have to tell us
who's
available. That'd be helpful.
I'm getting there, dude. Jeez.
Sure.
So we've got Singletary, we've got Hunter Renfrow, who's kind of just staring me in the face. Kareem Hunt, Dawson Knox, Lazard, James Cook.
Just curious.
Olave.
What other tight ends are there? Like, where are we at with the tight ends?
Tight ends left. You've got Knox, Gesicki, Komet, Fant, Irv, Bunham.
Is there no Pat Fryermuth available to you?
No, he just got picked.
Rats.
Hunter Henry's still there.
What pick are you again?
I'm the 106. This is the 907.
Right smack dab in the middle. I feel like if you pass on tight end, you're gonna have to grab on the way back, most likely, man. Like people are gonna start taking their second one, and you're gonna get totally hosed.
Yeah.
Komet's a pretty good choice because
I know. I was saying
that's
that
what I was
same
thinking.
thing. Although
at target share,
week
dude.
14 bye, which is brutal. But I mean, I'm the one who has taken two running backs with a week 14 bye, so we'll see. There we go. Komet's not too bad. We agree.
All right, done and done. Boom.
And we're done. Let's move on, folks.
Okay, now back to the show.
I think Toronto Dave wanted to hear the NFC East preview and not listen to you pick, so he just told you Komet, and you did. I like it. Love the action.
You're welcome, Toronto Dave. Also,
all right,
because of your Blue Jays, I have to wear my shirt of Philadelphia, which works because Bohm is injured and couldn't go to Toronto anyways. But yeah. All right. Moving on. NFL, guys. Let's talk some football. That's what we're here to do, or so I've been told. NFC East. The way we start this off, Herms, we like to do just an NFL-related question first and just kind of, break the ice before we get into the fantasy side of it. So our question this week, or for this division, which team, if any, can surprise the NFL and actually be a real contender from this division for what feels like the first time in a while, years, maybe a decade?
Something that feels like the first time. Dude, I mean, okay. So look, to be perfectly honest, because this background is necessary. I was born and raised a Steelers fan. My parents are from Northwest PA, but I am from the greater DC metropolitan area. Despite Dan Snyder's just overall awfulness, there is still a very tiny, soft spot in my heart, somewhere around here, for the Commanders. And
you're with me, man. Yeah, same thing, man. I grew up in this area.
Football team.
I can't actively root for them during the day, but when they're doing well, you're like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and it's like,
but I still hate you.
Oh yeah, no,
something feels weird.
Right?
What is this?
Like
Excitement? Is that what I'm feeling?
Yeah. No, they're difficult to get behind, but I will say, just in terms of like how vastly that defense underperformed last year relative to its capability. I mean, especially since like the signing of William Jackson at cornerback was a really huge deal for them. It didn't really work out, super well last year, but like I saw him twice a year terrorize my Steelers wide receivers when he was, locking stuff down on the Bengals there for a while. Like, he's super talented. Theoretically, if that front seven, remains healthy, they figure out to find a tackler in one of those linebackers, they could be pretty good. And plus, like, for as much as Carson Wentz gets clowned, like, it could be worse. He's done well in the division before. Right. So, like, I don't know. Because we're picking something that will surprise people, because, like, people think the Cowboys are good. The Eagles have enough star power going for them that, people would probably, pick them. The surprise, though. Surprise. Keyword. Commanders. I think there's enough reason to be optimistic for a surprise, at least.
Yeah. I was definitely shocked by their defense last year and how non-fantasy helpful they were. I think I actually had drafted them.
It didn't work.
I like sat on them and I was like, okay, no one's getting defense in this league. I was like, fine, I'll just take Washington. And that did not work out too well. And they were cut pretty quick. So I can definitely see that.
Best of luck to you, Davis.
Which one, Davis? You have 18,000 best ball teams, so of course one can be a Commanders. I will allow that.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's jump into the preview here. Start off with our quarterback position. Basically, what we do is list off the ADP, the quarterbacks by their ADP based on sleeper from Fantasy Pros. So number 7, QB7, we've got Mr. Jalen Hurts. We've got Dak Prescott at QB8, Mr. Wentz at QB25, and Danny Dimes coming in last at 26. Suck it, Keith, forever. All right, Joe, lead us off.
That's the good show joke. I was waiting for. There's gonna be lots of those.
Oh, this is the show for hashtag Suck It Keith.
The whole show, yeah. I should have added that to the YouTube description. Hashtag
that should have just been our picture.
Keith Lott is, by the way, Herms. For those of you who are not don't know, Keith is the co-owner of the site. And is a big Giants fan, so it's just a funny thing because obviously Commanders fan-ish, and then obviously Eagles fan. I always do this wrong, but Eagles fan. So Giants, Eagles, whatever. Yes, there.
The one thing we can agree on is that Dallas sucks.
Sitting there, sucky Keith. I forgot about that. So
yes,
timing there.
Thank you. I was waiting for that.
All right, so starting off here with Dallas, Herms. How much. People are still drafting Dak pretty high. But, I mean, are we worried about his ceiling just being that much lower to where he shouldn't be drafted where he's going right now without Amari and Cedric Wilson this year? Or are you just still all in?
I mean, Dak is pretty interesting this year because, well, first and foremost, the thing he has going for him is that it's another year removed from that extremely gnarly ankle injury. The fact that he's made it back out to the field, played a whole season, seemingly, at least, I will say, toward the, second half of the year, he started to lose a little bit of confidence, I think, just like physically in terms of being able to like plant and make accurate throws sometimes. But like, that's further in the past. And I do think they addressed some of the other, holes that left behind by Amari Cooper not being there and Cedric Wilson not being there well by bringing in Jalen Tolbert in the draft. I think that was a really good one. And, and we'll get to that position group as we go on, so I won't go too deep about it. But like the biggest thing he has going for him is just health. It was a very difficult injury to come back from, and especially with the quarterback position, like to be able to plant and really go through your motion to throw the football. Like if you're coming back from something as severe as that type of ankle injury, or especially like think about what we saw from Joe Burrow earlier last season. Now, granted, it's a different injury, but it's still part of your leg. It's still part of the part of your body that you're relying upon to be able to be, planted in the ground and do the thing. Like it took him a while to get going too, but anytime you can come back to full health, it's a good thing for you. So just Not the most insightful answer in the world, but he's healthy, so good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like Dak where he's going. I actually think he's still got a pretty safe floor. I think he does lose a little bit of that ceiling without too. Well, as much as I hate Amari Cooper, he is a big boom type of player that helps out. Especially his quarterback. Cedric Wilson is talented, so that does hurt. But I mean, I still think Ceedee Lamb is very, very good. Obviously, Dalton Schultz is good. They're hopefully going to be getting back Gallup at some point in the season, if not super early on, and that's just that's going to help as well. I've always liked Gallup, so I think Dak is fine. Could you go and grab a couple of the guys after him, like not hit on his ADP or his ranking because you just want a little bit more upside? Sure, I won't hate you on that. Like, in the rankings and ADP, you're looking at guys behind him like Wilson and Lance and Stafford and guys like that. And if you want to take the upside with those guys, I get it. They're all pretty close. Dak's just a little safer, just because he always kind of has been.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it. So.
I mean, speaking of safe, if you're looking for someone to crack some safes open with their head, you might as well look at the Giants. His 5th year here, this is again Danny Dimes, 5th year option has been rejected. Does that to you mean the writing's on the wall here for Danny Jones? Now that the Brian Daboll regime begins.
I have absolutely no faith in Daniel Jones whatsoever, and I absolutely cannot wait until they have pretty much anybody else as the quarterback of that team, man. Like, it's been so aggressively bad. And, like, while he has shown flashes at times, the flashes he has shown have all come from longer runs, not even his arm necessarily. So...
Like, sure it's the runs. I mean, it's he likes to trip
that
on
sounds
the
like
5-yard line and
sounds
not
like a personal
score on
problem.
a breakaway. Like, I have to call that one out every time somebody talks about him running. Sorry.
Yeah, but that I think it's the most important thing to point out when talking.
Suck it, Keith.
Hey-o, yeah. It's the most important thing to point out when talking about Daniel Jones because it is so emblematic of his career. If you're gonna distill Daniel Jones down to a single moment, it's I can't remember how many yards it was, but like breakaway, doing it. Oh, just look at this guy go, and then
it was like 70 yards.
Yeah,
and it was against the Eagles, and then he just tripped.
Yeah.
He just literally ran out of gas and was like, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Yeah, I really, really hope that this is the last time we see Daniel Jones as the starting quarterback of the Giants. They have enough other interesting players that, I don't know, I kind of hope end up working out at some point. But then also it's just like this could be the last year we see Daniel Jones. And as part of the Giants, this could be the last year we see Saquon Barkley. I mean, I don't know. They're such a weird team right now. And Brian Daboll, while a great hire for the future, and hopefully as they continue to rebuild the entire team, I don't think it matters much for 2022.
No, I agree. Daniel Jones is not interesting to me at all. I know people want to look at, all the talent around him and just, his rookie year where he was so good. Like, guys, we're too far removed from his rookie year for us to care about that anymore. The guy has 21 touchdowns thrown in 15 games. He also has 17 interceptions thrown in 25 games. In 25 games. That's
a small sample size. I mean, across 4 years. That's a small sample size. I mean, how many games do they play in a year again? A little less than 25. Yeah. So
it's not good. I mean, his passing, his yards per average passing in the middle six is not good. Just nothing's working. It's time to move on. Like we all laughed at the pick. AJ, you were on air with us during our draft special when he got picked, and we all just went, "Wait, what?" I mean, like, we're ACC fans. Like, we knew better than this. Like, not good. Not a good pick. So
Loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
Like,
I was laughing.
thank you, Giants, for
Good
continuing
job.
to make me want to laugh at you.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move over here to the Eagles. And, you know, look, a lot of people are on Jalen Hurts this year, and I kind of agree with it. You know, it was kind of the prove it year last year, but it almost feels like another prove it year this year, right? They gave him AJ Brown. You know, can he take that next step forward and be, you know, a legit top 5-ish quarterback? Or are we, you know, thinking maybe takes a step backwards, and a little bit of fool's gold last year?
I mean, the ceiling for Jalen Hurts is the quarterback one overall. That is very much within the range of outcomes, just because, like, well, first of all, like, you know, and I always like to point this out, because even though it's one of the things, it's like, yeah, no duh, but, you know, it's important to remind yourself of how scoring works in fantasy football sometimes. In a lot of leagues, 25 points passing and 10 yards rushing equal the same amount of points.
Yep.
One. So, like, any time that you can technically do less to get the same amount of points, that's a pretty good thing you have going for you. So, like, just on that alone, for fantasy, he'll be absolutely fine. But kind of blending the fantasy aspect and the real life aspect into it, I'm kind of hoping that this is the year we really see a step forward, because, you know, and to somewhat of his defense, because it is a little bit difficult to come to his defense as a passer sometimes. Outside of Devonta Smith and the reliability of the tight ends that he had there for, you know, actually even like half a season, because he lost Ertz as time went along. Like, you look behind some of those guys, and, like, I'm sure, you know, like, I will spare clowning the pick too much, because I'm sure this is something that's come up routinely, but Jalen Reagor, not great. So, you know, that's, you know, just, yeah, that's not a good time.
Still very angry at that draft.
We did not like it. Or he didn't.
Very angry at that draft pick.
Oh, yeah. So, like, it's not necessarily entirely his fault, but he finally has some really interesting weapons around him, or at least more interesting weapons than he had before. And I routinely like to point this out as well. Like, he does have some difficulty in terms of reading the middle of the field sometimes. But what Jalen Hurts has always had going for him is his penchant for the ability to fit the ball down the sideline in those very tight windows. Like, that's a very difficult throw to teach any quarterback, but he already has that in his arsenal. The things that he needs to continue to get better at are things that you can coach up, things that you can develop a quarterback to be able to do, hopefully. Just fingers crossed.
The field a little bit.
Yeah. But, like, that difficult of a throw, like, he's routinely nailed that numerous times. And AJ Brown. AJ Brown.
That's gonna be nice. That's definitely gonna be nice.
Yeah. Like, having some guy like that who's just an absolute yak monster will definitely help, because, like, even if it's yards after the catch or whatever, those are still passing yards. Jalen Hurts still gets credit for those points. You know, like, that's a very good thing he has going for him as well. So, like, I'm optimistic for it, but I do understand the perspective of some of the detractors. So it is a bit of a wait and see, but simply because he can run as well as he can, I'm here for it.
Yeah. I was hoping to get him on the way back in Scott Fish. Did not. Got sniped by local Washington Post Des Beeler. Ended up taking Stafford instead. So I was pretty mad about that. You know, I mean, the rushing upside with him just. I know in Scott Fish, right, we're dealing with the completion percentage thing, but I do think that's going to increase this year, get better at least, because of the addition to AJ Brown. But you know, it is hard to kind of separate. Like, as you said, it is hard to separate sometimes, like the real life quarterback. Like, I think a real life quarterback, he's kind of not that great. Like,
he's okay,
but fantasy quarterback, like, he's awesome. Like, we love him, and you know, and because of his rushing ability. I think, you know, you talked about how he could fit stuff down the sideline. I just remember watching on Red Zone, like, it felt like 3 games in a row. He would do this like weird thing where he would like scramble out to the right. They were within like the 15-yard line. He'd get stuck, and instead of throwing it away, he'd do like a pirouette and then just like chuck it into the front corner of the end zone. And all the corners knew it was coming, and they would pick him off every time. And as soon as he did it, you were like, as soon as he let go of the ball, I just remember like the 3rd week in a row he did it. I went, no, and then it was picked off immediately, and I was like, come come on, because of course I had Hurts on a league, and I was so pissed. So I'm just like, he's got to stop doing that kind of stupid stuff too.
Yeah.
So he's just got to be a smarter quarterback. He's got to learn the game a little more. It's back to your point. So, anyway, AJ, I know you probably want to give a couple thoughts on your Eagle.
Yeah, I won't. I mean, you guys hit on a lot of the stuff that I would have, been dwelling on as well. But the big thing, especially in the Philly area here, is listening to the sports radio. There was a report that came out from Derek Gunn, who's one of the most, very well respected, commentators and sports analysts in the area. He's been around the Eagles and with the Eagles reporting for 25 years, maybe longer. But he put something out about practice and some practice that he looked terrible about. And it's just like the new radio talk fodder of all of the, reasons why we can continue to hate on Hurts. And it's such a mixed bag up here. It's hilarious. There's people that absolutely despise Hurts. There's people that absolutely love Hurts. And then there's like a handful of us that are in the middle, like, yeah, like we want the guy to do well. So
we play a lot of fantasy football, so we just want him to
exactly
fantasy football team.
Exactly.
That's who we are.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's enough's been said about it. I think he'll have a decent season. I think it's what the team has done. The front office has really set themselves up to give him this year, another full year. They've got him some weapons. They've helped build the defense. I mean, this offseason was dragging ass for Philly, but then it took off. And, they had a nice draft. They got AJ Brown. They got Hassan Reddick. They've got pieces in place to really do something. And it's going to come back to him. I mean, as long as he can play another level above what he was last year. I mean, they were a playoff team last year. Yeah, they had a pretty easy second half of the season, and they start the year with a pretty easy stack of games too. But I mean, I'm excited. I'm optimistic at what Hurts is going to show us this year, and I don't put much stock into that report from Gunn. As awesome as an analyst and reporter he is, I mean, whatever. Unless something else comes out that says, yes, it was multiple practices and this was the source that did this and that and whatever, but it's still up in the air. So moving on to the former Philly fan and now feel like is very hated, Mr. Carson Wentz. How is he going to fare for the Commanders this year in his return to the NFC East?
I don't, great question, man. Like I truly do not know. It's such a weird offense. Like, so a lot of the reasons why I don't have a very good answer is because of a lot of the circumstances around him. Because taking the Carson Wentz being Carson Wentz part of it out of it, because that's automatically its own concern. Because it takes a special level of ability to sprain both of your ankles on the same play. But
Danny Dimes could do it.
hey, all of his starting receivers are under 6 feet tall. It's a little squadron of wide receivers running out there. I don't know how that's necessarily going to work. The really big target they have in Logan Thomas. I mean, I live in the media market. I read and listen to some of the different coverage of the team. I don't know how healthy he is. That's kind of a pretty important part of this whole thing. And then even when he turns around and hands the ball to a running back or something, there's a huge blob of 3 of them that I don't know how they're going to divvy that up. And foreshadowing, we'll talk about that. But I don't yet understand how the offense will function necessarily. So I can't decide how he's going to do. So what I'm conservatively approaching it with is this. Well, after he got healthy a little bit last year, and until he just, for some reason, fell off a cliff at the very end, there was a good window where Carson Wentz was very, very good. That has also been true at times in the past in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. When he finds his health and he's doing his thing, he's pretty good. It's just a matter of how often he's healthy and how often he's, got his head in the game. So, it's the same risk that you're taking in any other stop he's been in his career. We've seen the upside, and we've also seen the absolutely horrendous floor. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. I would love to be at the Eagles-Redskins game here in Philly just for the first 20 minutes, and then when he throws an interception or 6. I will say, without the season that he had near MVP play, we would not have won the Super Bowl. I love Nick Foles, and I'm stoked that he was the guy to get us there, and pull it out in the end. But Wentz was the one who paved the way for that season. And, I think a lot of people want to try to forget that, and you can't. We wouldn't have a Super Bowl if it wasn't for Carson Wentz. But after the Super Bowl, he sucked. So,
okay, so I know people want to look at last season's finish and say, oh, he was QB 15 in pretty standard leagues and things like that. Let's flip the script here a little bit and go by average, right? So he's QB 20, okay, in per game average. Okay, so you can throw away Nick Foles 1 game. You can throw away Jameis Winston 7, but still, that's notable because he's going to be back on the field. Here's the one that gets me. He actually finished with less points per game than Daniel Jones. Just Daniel Jones only played 11. So, I'm sorry, I'm out. Like, there is something to look at. Like, okay, maybe he's got more weapons this year to throw to than he did in Indy. Like, last year was basically Pittman and dust. Yeah. This year he's got a little bit more, and like he does have good receiving backs. I think a lot of us last year, right, kind of went, stop throwing the ball with Carson Wentz, Indy, and what the hell are you doing? Just hand it off to the best running back in the NFL, in Jonathan Taylor, and be done with it. And it worked after they finally started doing it. So, yes, a little bit too, okay, maybe he gets a little bit of points back because of that, but he's still just not a good quarterback, in my opinion. So, I'm not really in on him. I actually had a guy in my Scott Fish league who local homeboy wanted to took Wentz and McLaurin. He took Wentz as I think QB3, but I was still like, nah, I'm out. Like he took him way early. It was like QB 17 or something like that. I was like, no, what? Everybody was like, have fun, dude. So
can't get down with that.
Nah. So all right, let's jump over here to the running backs, Herms, and ripping through the ADP real quick. Saquon Barkley at 11, Zeke at 15, Gibson at 19, Sanders at 27, Pollard at 32, Kenneth Gainwell at 50, McKissick at 51, Brian Robinson Jr. at 60, the rookie, Matt Breida 72, and Boston Scott at 76. AJ, got the Cowboys.
Is this finally the year that Tony Pollard can overtake Zeke as RB1 in Dallas?
Probably not without injury, just because the influence that Jerry Jones has on the team and how much he just loves Ezekiel Elliott and how much money he's still being paid this year, at least. Because if I remember correctly, it'll still be like a little pricey, but they're easier. Backtrack. They're more capable of moving on at like before the 2023 season financially than they are now. So like he has at least this year to be able to, prove it like, hey, still keep paying me this money, guys. If it doesn't work out, then, it's definitely the Pollard show in 2023. But I will say, based off of some of the stuff that I've been reading, and I'll tell you what, if you're not subscribed to The Athletic, really good football coverage they got over there. Very good website. Pollard's been running some routes in the slot, getting him integrated a little bit more as a receiver, which is interesting to consider about the fact, we briefly mentioned his name earlier. Michael Gallup still, coming off of an ACL that, it was pretty late in the season. So who knows? They could supplement that with Jalen Tolbert. They could supplement that, this, that, the other. But if they're going to let Tony Pollard do it, I mean, and also he's seen his touches increase every year. He seems to be very effective in this offense, and they seem to like him a lot. So even if he doesn't overtake Zeke this year, which, again, unless he gets hurt, I don't think it quite happens. But he could still be very relevant. And I am interested in taking Tony Pollard in that premium handcuff range, just, kind of like he's always been for a little bit, but he's like slightly higher than I think he was last year, but like, I'm here for it, man. I'm really here for it, especially if they commit to getting him involved in the receiving game in more creative ways. Sure. Why not?
Yeah, it's so tough with him though, man. Like even in that premium handcuff range, because you are having to draft him with a fairly premium draft price for that. Like 130 rushing attempts isn't great. Although he turned it into 718 yards last year. So like that's awesome, but only 2 touchdowns. He caught 39 passes for 37 yards, but like, I mean, it was okay, but like on a week-to-week basis, it wasn't enough. Like he just doesn't do enough. And to your point earlier, like, you look at the rushing share. I mean, Zeke, even though he struggled and kind of looked like poop a few times, if I'm going to be, family friendly here, Zeke still saw 50% of the rushing share, to where Pollard only saw 27.5, which means there was still another 25% just about that went somewhere else. Zeke's still seeing at this point in this day and age of football, that's a very, very healthy rushing share, and still kind of, locked down RB1 for the team at least, right? Mm-hmm.
Especially because, like, dude, like, even if they do divvy it up a little bit more, look at where Zeke's getting a lot of those touches. He's getting those money touches, baby. He's getting that stuff in close, my guy, where the touchdown just scored.
Are you in my head? That's exactly where I was going to go. He was getting all the red zone, man. That's what it is. Yeah, he saw a lot of work inside the red zone. 10 touchdowns inside the red zone, to where Pollard saw 1 touchdown in the red zone. So there you go. That's where the value is. Yeah. That's where Zeke. I mean, this offense is going to be good enough to get close, and then they're just going to go, Zeke, have fun. I mean, like you said, Jones wants Zeke to earn his money, so there you go. But moving over here to the Giants and Saquon Barkley. I don't know. Again, we don't know what to think with this Giants offense in general, but Saquon is such a talent, man. He came out and he was phenomenal, right? Just, do we think Saquon's going to be able to return back to being Saquon, or at least like 85% of Saquon? Or if the injuries has taken too much of a toll? I mean, I don't think anybody's really truly worried about the guys behind him like taking over. But I'll be honest, like there were times last year where Gallman legit looked better when he was on the field. I remember like a couple of times, watching TV and being like, the Giants would hand the ball off, and I'm like, oh, Saquon, oh, that was Gallman. Like he looked good. Oh, that was Gallman. Yeah, so like I don't know what to do anymore.
I give up.
I'm kind of with you,
honest,
man.
Like, because especially, and I talk about this sometimes depending on the player that comes up, just because like there's a subset of players that we will just continue to pick at because once upon a time we saw something good. And even though there's been a bunch of evidence after that of them like showing us, hey, you probably shouldn't count on me ever getting back to that form, we just keep going for it. We keep going for it. And Saquon Barkley's rookie year was just exactly like his rookie year was incredible. But in fairness to, the case against, I guess, I don't know. That was a weird way of saying that. Anyway, a lot of that came on check down master Eli Manning. He has not seen a lot of that type, like that insane volume of targets since that first year. Like,
that got me frightened that I drafted Najee Harris and Scott Fish as my RB1.
No, so let me tell you. Okay, look, I will hype up Najee Harris to the moon forever, and that's a whole other conversation. You made a great pick. That was
talk
fantastic.
Off air.
Yes, but at least as far as Saquon goes, like there's just in terms of the way that the offense has trended, going away from like, and obviously it's been years now. Eli Manning hasn't been at the team in years. Like losing that and adding in the fixture of Daniel Jones just being the whole time, like it's not great, man. It's just not great. And I know that like the injuries are not necessarily connected per se, but like they've happened. It's kept him out. And I tried this past year. I really did. And there were certain stretches where he was okay, but even at best, it was like, well, yeah, better hope he gets to 60 yards. And if he falls in the end zone, you feel great about it. Like, I'm not going to do it anymore.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I'll wait till he signs somewhere else. If he goes to a better situation where it's just like, hey, man, sorry you had to spend all that time there. Why don't you just share with this guy? We'll still give you a lot of work, but we'll give you an offensive line to run in front of. If he leaves and signs a contract elsewhere for a couple of years, talk to me again about Saquon Barkley when he's not on the Giants, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be 26 next season. He's 25 now. And because of injuries, he hasn't actually had a ton of work. Like, so he's still fresh legs, but like you do worry. Like, I know you're saying the injuries like aren't all connected, but like I think eventually like they all start adding up and your whole body just hurts. Like you just aren't as fast and powerful as you once were. So I mean, he's had some pretty rough injuries, and those ankles, you know, like his ankles have like kept him out for weeks, man. And when he came in, he just wasn't the same. So I don't know, man. Like I'm with you. This year I'm out. I don't want anything to do with this Giants offense, especially where Saquon's still going. I'm just kind of like, wait, what are we doing again?
Yeah.
Why? That makes no sense to me.
The hip bone's connected to the Saquon broke it bone. So I mean it is actually all connected.
Them bones.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm out on Saquon this year. I mean, until he shows me some semblance of somebody who can actually run well again. And I honestly I would like to see it because
he's awesome.
You know, he's awesome. He's a talented dude. You know, he's got a lot of natural ability to be good, and it's just a case of injuries coming in and just really sidelining your career, you know, literally. So it sucks to see it, you know, for good players, but when they're on the Giants, I'm usually okay with it. So I'll leave it at that. But the last thing I'll say is that, you know, Ricky Williams had fresh legs. Marshawn Lynch had fresh legs because of, well, we know what it was because of the Chiba. And Chiba and Dreads, they go hand in hand with fresh legs. But again, two guys that just did what they wanted to do, and they're like, yeah, fuck it, we're good. We know we're good. We'll play if we want to play. Receivers. Let's talk receivers. The wide ones. All right.
Still on
just kidding.
We still got
yes, we are.
You pulled a me last week.
We are.
Got him.
What are your expectations for the receivers that are in the Philly backfield, aka the ones that run?
Oh man, I don't know. I honestly, I'm gonna defer to your answer probably, just because it was so weird the shift that happened in the offense last year, where it's just like for a decent part of the year, it's just like, oh gosh, these guys aren't getting any work, and then the switch flipped, and it's like, oh wow, they're running like just bonkers. It's the only thing I even have to contribute to this that may even be worthwhile for people to consider is the fact that Miles Sanders just didn't score. And theoretically, just based off of how regression to the mean works, he will, hopefully, this year. That's all I got. I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm with you. As long as they decide not to re-sign Jordan Howard, which who knows, they just seem to like to do that in week 4 every year.
No, let him go, please.
So yeah.
Hello.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What up?
Appreciate you tuning in. Love it.
Yeah.
Go Raiders. I'm a semi fan of them. My dad always liked the Oakland Raiders, and I got a friend who's a big Las Vegas Raiders fan now. So but yeah, back to Philly. I feel you. Sanders, he's got to score a few more. Like, there's just no way he goes 0 again, right? Like, that's just insanity.
Very unlikely.
Yeah.
But it's just the split workload. Like, they never like favored one guy until Howard came in, and then it was kind of like, oh yeah, we're just gonna hand the ball to this guy a bunch.
Welcome back.
Like,
here you go.
He's old and slow.
Take it
give
in.
him the ball. What?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, Sanders was incredible in 2020, like on a per touch basis, and then like last year it was just. I know he was kind of banged up here and there, but they just kind of stopped using him. It just nothing made sense with this Eagles offense last year.
The big thing with that is that in the beginning of the year, Sirianni, the coach, was calling the plays, and then out of nowhere, everyone's screaming for them to run the ball. They finally started running the ball. Comes out this year that he wasn't even calling the plays. He handed it off to somebody, and they started running the ball. So I don't know where that all came down from, if it was from upper management, Jeff Lurie.
This is good.
Whatever.
Skippers. Welcome back, man.
No.
Remember you from Monday's show, man. That's awesome.
No, well,
Morris, no.
Would that give him the golden sombrero of playing for every team in this division?
That'd be awesome.
There's that. There you go.
Did he play with the Giants?
Yeah, very briefly, but yeah.
I think he did. Yeah, here's the thing though. Like, if you look at red zone touchdowns, Jalen Hurts has 9. Boston Scott even had 7 last season. Like, how crazy is that? Gainwell had 4. Jordan Howard had 3. Like, how is he the least of that? Like, even though he only played half the season with them, but again,
I feel like
Sanders
got
like he
McNabb.
got 4 yards in the red zone. This is inside the 10, by the way. So inside the 20, if I bump it up a little bit, Sanders still only had 27 rushing yards. He just wasn't used inside the 20. It just makes no sense. That has to change.
He's a decoy.
He's just a far superior talent than the rest of these guys, but they haven't seen it that way so far. So I don't know. It's just insanity. Again, Herms, I'm with you, man. I don't know what to expect here, but another backfield I think we're going to kind of say the same thing with is this Washington Commanders off the backfield. We're talking Gibson, rookie Brian Robinson. They brought back J.D. McKissick, which was a shocker. They brought back McKissick, and then they're like, oh, well, they're good in the draft. Well, they drafted Brian Robinson, who I always thought was a little underrated coming out of Bama, but they seem to agree. So maybe I was totally wrong because, the Commanders can't draft. So not at least offense. I don't know what to think with this offense. Like, it's now... again, Gibson's kind of trending the way Sanders has been trending. Like, he's just underutilized. His per touch average is phenomenal, but just not utilized enough, in my opinion. But with this backfield, do we see him getting enough to, be worth a better pick than where he's going, which he's already going? I mean, RB19, that might be too high.
I mean, I wrote about this over on fantasypros.com a long time ago at this point. Wow, time is really flying by. I just realized I think that article came out in April. It's July. What happened? Anyway, yeah. Like, I was tasked with picking my running back, so I'm avoiding this year. And Gibson found his way as the first guy I wrote about because, like, the team's offensive, like, red zone rushing success, they were not very good at finding ways to punch it in. Like the O-line, well, and then again, I mean, Joe, you get it. Basically since the days of Chris Samuels and whatnot, that O-line has always been horrible. It's all like it's been and basically.
I'm not a fan anymore. I don't know what to talk about. I don't care.
It's just trying to get back in, man.
But like, it's just
Not here for that.
Yeah, it's always been bad. It's always been a pain in the ass. And like, the push to bring back McKissick and match that deal that he got from Buffalo was like, especially because we all love to look at Antonio Gibson's prospect profile and say, well, he was he played running back in JUCO, but when he was at Memphis, he was a wide receiver. He has a lot of these pass catching skills, but as long as McKissick is there to be a thorn in his side, it caps his upside. Now, he did make some ground on McKissick in terms of the share of the targets out of the backfield last year, but he's back, damn it. And for as much as we like Antonio Gibson and cling to the one quote from, almost 3 years ago now of Ron Rivera being like, it kind of reminds me of a Christian McCaffrey. Like, they went ahead and invested in another running back in the third round. The same level of draft capital they gave into Gibson.
Talk about coach quotes. What do you think about the one where he said, now we want to use Gibson and Robinson as we did the other two from Carolina when he was there?
Stuart D'Angelo Williams.
Williams, thank you. Like, what does that leave McKissick? Like, why'd you bring him back? Like, the quote makes no sense.
I don't know. It's so frustrating, and because of all of that and just everything baked, like just pouring these ingredients into the cauldron, stirring it up, and taking a sip, all it tells me is, I'll just take Brian Robinson because he goes much later. That's what it tastes like to me. I'm just not even going to worry about Gibson at cost, just because like until he gets like a little bit. Yes, and Curtis Sip, like, hey, look,
he'll do some end arounds for sure.
His familiarity with Panthers coaching staff,
I get it, man. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, and you talked about how like Gibson took back a little bit of that, target share. It really wasn't until McKissick got hurt, and that's when Gibson finally got all the work. It was kind of like 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2,
like
3,
JD,
2, 0.
JD.
Hurt. Oh, then he got like a 7. It was like, what
Gibson.
Oh, hey, by the way, this guy can catch some passes. Maybe we don't need McKissick. Oh, but wait, he's going to leave us? Oh, no, let's re-sign him.
Oh, we can't have that.
That doesn't make any sense.
Buffalo.
This is why Washington Commanders fans cannot have nice things, because we do things like take on horrible Wentz contracts and re-sign McKissick, who is really not needed. I'm sorry.
Not only did the Eagles get out of that albatross contract and get, I believe it turned into a first-round pick.
It was probably a really good pick, yeah, because at that point his value was still really high. It was like, Wentz is still good.
Ended up
right, or should have been
watching Wentz go back with his old QB coach and have some okay games, but then really Wentz the bed at the end of the season, missing the playoffs for the Colts, and everybody in Philly laughed. Then they find out that he's coming back to the division for what did you guys give him, like a 4th round pick? I think not even.
I think it was a 3rd.
The point is that
it's like
the Commanders are paying a high percentage of his salary still, which is like, it was awful to begin with.
Terrible.
And the fact that the Commanders want to pay that, it's like, who, like, guys,
you
suck.
They always do this. But it's peak levels of Philly Schadenfreude, though. That's really what matters. Like I'm happy for Philly fans to be able to have that going for them.
Oh yes,
I'm not.
It will be delicious.
I'm not. Despite
Gibson
not rooting for the Commanders anymore, I still don't want Dallas to do well. I still want anybody, like, I just don't want this division to do well, and it's worked for the last 3 years, so it's fine. But anyway, let's finish out, or let's move on to receivers here and start ripping through this, man.
All right, the last thing I will say about Gibson, he is basically the love child of Saquon and Miles Sanders, in the fact that both of them were Penn Staters and had a lot of success early, but Gibson's just injury, like, he hasn't gotten back to anything. So
turf toe in the ankles, baby. Just that's
all right. So receivers, ADP again. We got Ceedee Lamb at wide receiver 7. We got AJ Brown at wide receiver 9. Salsa Jag McLaurin is at 14. Devonta Smith is at 35. Kadarius Toney at 50. Suck it, Keith. Michael Gallup is
not
52.
listening. I asked him.
Shut up. He's listening. He's always listening. Kenny Galladay, 56. Suck it, Keith. Dotson is at 59. You got Jalen Tolbert, who we mentioned here, at 67, and Curtis Samuel at 72. Joe.
All right, so starting off with the Cowboys. Look, what do we think about Ceedee Lamb this year? No Amari, no Wilson, as we mentioned before. So they're still gonna have Schultz. They're at least gonna franchise him. I think, unless he just decides to not play for some dumb reason off a ridiculous contract. But after that, man, the receiving core, as we kind of said, is pretty grim, especially until Gallup can come back, right? So do we think Lamb can actually return his, wide receiver 1 draft stock, or are you kind of fading that at this point?
So the reason I planted the seed of the whole Dak hesitation thing because of the injury earlier is because it now blossoms into the I have faith in Ceedee Lamb thing now. We saw last year a lot of the time where, because he was still a little hesitant, moving around in the pocket, it would just be like, oh, here, oh, go, oh. And there would just be weird off-target throws to Ceedee where it's just how was he supposed to catch that, man? Mm-hmm. A lot of, and it's fair to point out, just looking at the box score, there are certain games where Ceedee Lamb had just wow, he really only caught half of those balls. But, when you watch it, more often than not, it was just Dak getting spooked and being oh. And that's not Ceedee Lamb's fault. No. He is immensely talented. He is so immensely I'm a huge fan of his, huge supporter of his body control, just going through the air and locating the ball. It is incredible. I adore Ceedee Lamb. I'm glad I mentioned what I said earlier because, like I said, it ties in perfectly. As Dak continues to get more confident, the quality of those targets will continue to improve. I am absolutely here for Ceedee Lamb. And then also, just if anybody follows me on Twitter, I'm the conductor of the me and my buddy Wyatt. We are the conductors of the Jalen Tolbert hype train. There's still a lot of room, plenty of time to join. We're starting to fill up seats a little bit more, so get your tickets, early before the price goes up. But just throwing that out there. We do love him. Great guy. But yeah, Ceedee Lamb, because his catchable target rate was not as high as it would ideally be expected, coming from Dak Prescott's arm. It'll be better. I like him a lot.
I'm a big fan. I don't have much else to say. I don't know, AJ.
Yeah. I mean, I hate Dallas, but he's awesome.
Yeah, he's the guy
hard
in that offense that I really want.
Yeah,
sure.
hard not to like. So bringing it back to the Eagles, I mean, there's a ton to unpack here with the receiving core. Obviously, we've got trying to figure out what the move to Philly does for AJ Brown. His ADP is still pretty damn high, but do we know if that's worth it? Can Devonta Smith still be good for fantasy with Brown there in the mix? I mean, any big thoughts on either of these two guys?
Yeah,
I adore
AJ Brown. So I mean,
yeah,
I adore AJ Brown. I think he's fabulous. Very, very fun guy to watch out there on the football field. But I mean, I don't know. When it comes to new faces and new places, I kind of just wait for beat reporters to tell me how the connection's going. So I'll put a pin in that one until training camp starts and I get to read a little bit more. But Devonta Smith quietly put together an incredibly solid rookie season, and I don't think it gets talked about enough. He was really able to take advantage of the opportunities that he had and put up very steady numbers. It can only get better in the second year, theoretically, and I think a healthy amount of competition in the wide receiver room is only going to be beneficial because as long as he has more eyes and attention taken off of him, I think that will improve the quality of opportunities he sees on a per target basis. So, it goes back to everything we were saying about Hurts before. It depends on how far he continues to progress. But theoretically, I would rather have two good receivers functioning in an offense than one really good one and then a steaming turd everywhere else. So, yeah, I don't know. AJ Brown at cost I don't love, but Devonta Smith, that's some value, baby. That's some value.
Just snagged him and Scott Fish, so I'm happy. I'm a little scared, but like, you know, wide receiver 3, I was okay with it. You know, you look at these two offenses from last season, and I know things are going to change, personnel has changed, but Titans went from 535 passing attempts, and of course a lot of that was because Derrick Henry wasn't there, so they were dumping the ball off a lot more too. To the Eagles had 494. I kind of think the Titans will stay around the same, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles will jump up. You know, I think they're just going to force the pass a lot more because, as we've said, they've got the weapons. So, yeah, A.J. Brown's a little expensive for me. But, I mean, he made it work in Tennessee with a low passing offense. So could he make it work in Philly as well? Absolutely. I just don't know if Hurts is going to be, you know, as efficient as Tannehill was. Like that, you know, that's the thing that really struggles, you know, that makes me think that he could struggle, right? So, and then that kind of drops into, you know, Devonta Smith will kind of like, you know, the waterfall effect, will snowball effect, or whatever you want to call it, will struggle equally on the other side of it, or maybe just coverage will open up enough for him that he won't be the number one and get doubled and all that kind of crap. So maybe he will be like this super value, but I don't know, AJ. I mean, like, what you're in the Philly area, like, what have you been hearing up there?
I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've, you know, heard, not necessarily lately, but early on when this trade happened and you know, he was on his way here, was just the rapport that Brown and Hurts already have. They're like neighbors, they're good friends, you know, they're already throwing the ball back and forth like, you know, we would at you know, one of our houses or something on a random summer party or some shit. So it's different because they have that now, and I think that's going to help on the field because they have a chemistry in general. It's going to be different on the field because it's obviously a much more competitive arena. But I think it's going to help Smith even more because the defenses are going to have to key in on Brown. I mean, you can't just leave him in single coverage. He's going to hurt you with Hurts. So, exactly. You will get Hurts Brown. But I think with Smith, you know, Herms, you said it, he put together a really, really nice kind of under the radar rookie season. And I think he's only got room to grow along with Hurts. And now having somebody that Hurts knows, is comfortable with, and that's only going to add to it. You know, it's another year with the guys that were already there, and then you bring in Brown, and you're like, okay. I mean, a lot of people talked about, and including myself, talked about, you know, the fact that we could have had DK Metcalf instead of freaking Ortega-Whiteside. Another draft pick. There's
been a lot of goofs in the draft for the
one of those he who shall not be named.
Exactly.
Jefferson maybe instead of somebody shall not be named.
Anyway. He's already been named. Already talked about it.
Yeah, I know. I was trying not to do it.
Bringing it up.
All right. Well, let's move over here to Washington, and you know, we've got Terry McLaurin. Like, he was like a 3rd-round pick last year. And that was with Fitzpatrick, and I get it, you know, the gunslinger mentality, so that kind of raises value, but you know, he didn't really return the value. That was because Fitz got hurt early on, and you know, so on and so forth. You know, the season was what it was for him. You know, he was still a very talented receiver, just didn't really pan out for fantasy. Look, as we said earlier, like, he's still, this is arguably the best quarterback that Terry McLaurin has had, Carson Wentz. I know we all want to shit on him, but Carson Wentz is still a very solid NFL quarterback. Now he's going, what, 5th, 6th round? I mean, well, wide receiver 14 ended up being, I forget, I don't know what it is. Like I know in like best ball and Got Fish, he's going really late.
Yeah, he was 24.
Yeah, but so I mean his value is dropped. I mean, does that sound about right for you, or do you think that's like screaming value?
I mean, the one easiest way to just absolutely bypass the massive shield I've built in my heart to get to that little soft spot that I talked about earlier is to talk about Terry McLaurin. It's the easiest way to get to it because man, we love that guy around here. We just do. He's good, so man. Cool. He
proved
good.
me wrong. I was not all about him, but man, he has proved me wrong.
Yeah, it's like he's become such a regional favorite, and like I have to just put that out there immediately because it's like there's a part of me that's just like there's a warm glow in my heart for Terry McLaurin, but like man, it's going to be weird, but if we're to take anything away from the connection and how relevant this is, I don't know, but Wentz was able to support very, very good production with Michael Pittman last year.
Yeah,
I mean, at the very
17?
least. Yeah, so that's like, there's
sounds about right.
Yeah. So like, cool. But like pretty much
a heavy run offense too. The Commanders will not be a heavy. I keep trying to say. I keep saying we. I hate myself.
It's hard to break those habits.
It is. I mean, come on, that has been a 35-year habit. It's been the last 5 years that I've been like, F them. So it's a hard habit to break still. But yeah, it will be a much more pass heavy offense than what Pittman was in. So maybe
he could be good, man. Like he really could be, like, especially because it's like you don't ink him to a deal. And even though he didn't really play all last year because of injuries, like you don't sign Curtis Samuel to that money. You don't draft Jahan Dotson. You don't do all of these things to say, hey, let's just pound the pavement and run the ball all the time. It's one of those situations where, you read what the front office is telling you.
Right.
They lay out the tea leaves, and it's for us to be like, oh, they're investing a lot in these receivers. I guess they're going to do that. They're telling us that's what they're going to do. So, like, yeah, man, like, I'm really excited about both McLaurin and probably a little bit more so just at cost Jahan Dotson, just because, like, especially because, like, I'm not super into the metric stuff per se in terms of like the application of it translating to the pro level is difficult, but like that college dominator rating, man, like, I mean, Dotson, little guy, but man, he can really go up there and get it, man. Like, I'll tell you what, that guy, he's pretty good.
I hated the pick only because I still think there were more talented receivers on the board, but I always thought Dotson was a little underrated when it came to the draft. Same thing with Ryan Robinson. It was like, do they have a camera? Like, they took the two guys that I was sitting here, like, offensively, like, were super underrated when you read any draft college guide, right?
Yeah.
NFL draft guide. And it was kind of like, how in the hell did they actually get both of them? But the problem is they reached for them. It's like, go get your guy, right? But I think you might have reached. There were better players available.
Yeah.
That's the problem I have with it. I like Dotson. My wife's a big Penn State fan, so I watch a lot of Penn State games, and I mean, it's just like, man, it just felt like every play I happened to look over, they were just like chucking it down the field, and Dotson, little guy, right, just kept going up and getting the ball, and you were like, how the hell is he doing it? This dude's amazing. He's going to be talented. Same thing with Brian Robinson. It's like, just bowling over people. Like, dude's a monster. Like, I'm sorry, he only had 1 year of productivity in Alabama, but it's Alabama. That's kind of all you get sometimes. Like, hey, it's your turn to be a senior. Now you get it. Like, that's usually how it works there, especially at running back. So, yeah, I like Dotson. I like McLaurin. I think his value is a little low. Like, I wanted Waddle, or sorry, Waddle. I'm looking at Waddle. I'm looking at my rankings. I wanted McLaurin, but he got drafted, of course, by the guy I was saying took Wentz. You know, the big Commanders fan. He drafted with his heart. He'll lose. Never do that, guys. Never. Sorry. It might work out like once every 10 years, but it ain't gonna work out.
I did it. I'm gonna win.
We'll
see.
Move on. You want
Yes. Yes. Let's. Giants.
I mean, this might be quick.
Is there anyone worth drafting from this receiving core?
Or one. Oh,
what?
Herms. Cut off your video.
Oh no! Oh well. So whenever I do the stop cam thing, it normally cuts to a picture of a sign that says no. It was going to be such a good. It was. Nice. Oh, it's such a good bit.
I wish. I think that's our settings. I think we have it set on our StreamYard to not allow. Well, we say whoever's not here, you don't have to show the. I don't. I got you. The avatar.
Yeah. So a little bit of a but no. Just, no.
There you go. Do it. Mike, get out. There you go. No. Now I got to kick it out because Mike's
the fun gag.
That's why we had to do it because Mike's in the background pushing all the buttons.
Yeah.
But we good.
I talked about this on the latest episode of my podcast yesterday. It came out today. Whoa, yeah, the Lateral Show. Check it out. Apple, Spotify. Plug. I will think about Kadarius Toney simply because it's like they could probably. I mean, the Dable offense. I mean, like we saw, in Buffalo, some short area stuff from guys like Cole Beasley and stuff for a long time, and he kind of has that sneaky little guy, zoomy ability to create and do his own thing. It's worth a shot, sure, I guess, if we're talking just like super late, but like Kenny Golladay doesn't exist to me anymore. Sterling Shepard, if he was ever healthy, is usually pretty reliable, but he's like never healthy. And frankly, I can't name anyone else. So
I mean, those are the three. I'm not interested. I mean, Tony, maybe. I still don't know why. Like, if he falls far enough, like I'm probably gonna snag a Golladay here and there.
Oh, I forgot about Wan'Dale Robinson. Oh,
yeah,
like 5'7". Like,
gotta be.
No,
somebody.
You did not forget about him. You just decided not to talk about him.
I blocked it out.
Good reason. All right, well let's close out here.
We could say Isaiah Ford, former Hokie.
Let's just finish it with Suck It Keith and move on to tight ends. How about that? So ADPs for tight end: Dalton Schultz 7, Dallas Goedert at 8, and then we got all the way at 25 Logan Thomas, go Hokies, Ricky Seals-Jones at 34. We're only going to talk about two teams because those last two, like, they're shots in the dark. So we'll talk about those first two. AJ, you got the lead here.
All right, Dalton Schultz. He saw 104 targets last year, and he's being drafted as a top 5 tight end in some cases. But are you buying into that?
100%. I have him as my tight end 4 in my rankings. So I kind of mentioned it briefly. Well, we've all kind of danced around it a little bit. The Michael Gallup size elephant in the room is interesting because, and I'm not even just going to cite one specific person just because, like, shout out the medical community in all of the Twitter sphere in fantasy football. They all do such a fabulous job. You can, if you want to, Google it, wide receiver ACL, tons of great articles out there, tons of them. And the one common thread through all of them is that, like, the first year back, production just isn't there because of what you ask your body to do as a receiver to be able to make certain cuts and do certain stuff. That ligament in your knee is kind of a really important thing to have. So
that's maybe
like that, maybe a little bit. So like that mixed with the fact that Gallup got hurt so late in the year, even if he does come back, he doesn't really come back to form because those are two different things. Because of all of that, it's a part of why I'm a little optimistic about Jalen Tolbert, like I mentioned earlier. It's part of why I'm a little optimistic about Tony Pollard, but this is the slow burn. The biggest beneficiary of the entire thing is Dalton Schultz. There is absolutely a path for him to reach those triple-digit targets again. I do not see what's stopping him. And despite being, like, he's not like one of those like monster cyborg sized tight ends that's out there at 7'4", absolutely mossing people constantly.
He's
like he's
5, by the way, though.
No, I mean I know, but it just like when
6'5",
like
250.
but when
big-ass dude.
when you put your eyeballs on him on the screen, he doesn't look like one of those
Right,
guys. Like
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
very unsuspecting kind of like that's more of my point. Like he does not like to the eyeball test like look like one of those guys, but he is one of those guys, and he proved it already. He's proved it. Like the circumstance is just, it's all there for him. I don't see what's stopping him aside from the contract thing, but they'll probably work that out, right?
Well, no, they're already saying, like I read a report today, they're pretty much not gonna they're not gonna reach an agreement. But I mean, he's franchised, so he'll play.
Yeah.
He'd be dumb not to play on a franchise tag. But
yeah,
I like him above his ADP. I have him at 6. I just think like if Waller and Kittle can stay healthy, like I mean, of course that's a big if, right? But if they can stay healthy, like they're much better tight ends, in my opinion. I like Schultz. I just worry, like, 104 targets for a tight end any year is high. Could he get to like 80 to 90 again, which would be phenomenal? Great. But also 8 touchdowns. So like there is a little regression coming like each way. So
Possibly,
like that's where my worry comes in, where I leave him at like the 6-7 spot. More, I flip-flop between him and Hawkinson in my mind because Hawkinson, you worry about all the, and we're going to get to this next week on the NFC North, but, you worry about all the now new mouths to feed in that offense. And, of course, last year all the injuries. But those are the two that I kind of, like, trade with at the 6-7. I think my top 4 or 5 is pretty locked in with Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, Kittle, Waller. I'm just hoping Waller stays healthy because I still think he's a monster.
Oh, I loved Aaron Waller so much.
Yeah, I did. I still think he's a monster. And even with Adams there, I still think he's going to get such a high target share. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it going away. But let's move over to the other tight end in this division that we all care about for drafting at least. And that is Dallas Goedert on the Eagles. And, of course, we saw his target share increase with the trade of Zach Ertz last year. But now with A.J. Brown in town, didn't mean to rhyme, but it happened. Should we temper expectations of him being a top 8 tight end or drop him into the top 12-ish range?
Well, I mean, we do have to be concerned about tight end J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, that could cut in.
Could the one game that he's going to not be a blocking receiver, he might get a target, and it will probably be by accident.
Can he catch passes unlike Jalen
No.
Reagor? No.
I had to do it.
I know.
But at least as far as
play into it, failed miserably. We're good.
so I felt too bad immediately. Like I said it and I felt horrible.
No, do not feel bad.
But
you've got an Eagles fan right here who I love to make fun of all the time. So we're good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude,
But
come on. If the Commanders were still a team that we cared about, we would be ripping
for sure.
the Eagles left and right.
Yeah. But like honestly, and this is not the first time it's even come up in this show when it's turned around to Herms' turn. I'm the type of dude where it's like if I don't have a good answer, I will not pretend that I have a good answer. Like I know what I know and I don't know what I don't know. In terms of how this offense is going to function, like it's cool that Ertz is gone, but then the Brown, coming in with the, I don't know. I know for a fact Dallas Goedert is talented. He's shown us stuff before. We know that he can be fantasy viable, but exactly how good, I don't know. I will, like I said before, like once all the teams get into camp starting next week, we're going to start getting reports. We're going to see a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a better answer then. I just don't know how those weapons in that offense are going to function right now.
Yeah. My 10 seconds, AJ, before you give your 35 minutes is going to be I like Goddard, but I am hesitant. Like if he's going to be the last tight end of the top 8 that falls to me, I might just totally wait and pass because of those worries.
Yeah, I think Goddard's still going to have a decent target share. I think he's got to be third on the team though, with Brown there now, and a lot of people want to talk Brown down, but or have the bold take that he's not going to have a good season and this and that and whatever. I mean, yeah, I don't buy into that, but Goddard is someone that I wouldn't have a problem fading from this offense. I think he's going to get his targets. I don't see them being what they were last year. I think he's going to have more value as the go-to in the red zone, like Ertz was years ago with Wentz, because the two of them were, I mean, their chemistry was awesome. So I think if Hurts and Goddard can kind of get on that page, then he's going to be, more touchdown dependent. But that's how I see him this year, unfortunately.
I mean, if you're going to take a player like that, why take Goddard at cost when you can have the wonderful superstar that is Pat Freiermuth even later? I mean, it's just like anytime I can find a way to work in Pat Freiermuth in the conversation, I'll do it.
Fish secrets away, dude.
I'm sorry.
I'm waiting for Freiermuth to follow me in like a couple.
What he meant was the law firm of Ricky Seals Jones. That is
That is
not even a thing. Suck it, Keith.
Or Logan Thomas. Gotta do it.
Shout out.
I haven't done enough. Go Hokies.
Honest to God, if he is healthy, like I said before,
he's a monster.
I like Logan Thomas.
All three of the starting receivers for the Commanders are below 6 feet tall, or like at 6 foot and below. Like
that's why he scored like 10 touchdowns too.
Exactly. If he I know we're only getting like super in depth with those couple, but like I'm planting that flag. If
it's fine,
Logan Thomas is fine and he's good to go, he's the obvious red zone target by some pretty significant distance.
He's like, hey, look at me, I'm the open guy.
Yeah,
he could pay off. Here, just throw it to me.
He doesn't even have to do it.
I am the 6'7" guy you were talking about.
It's like, he hits. Here's my helmet. Here's everybody else scrambling around that I'm looking above. I just have to wave eye level.
I'm sorry,
and you see me.
Still, he's 6'6".
Yeah,
but he looks taller than like you were saying with Schultz, where he was like he doesn't like when I looked up his height, I was actually kind of shocked to see he was 6'5".
Exactly.
Thomas is 6'6" apparently, but he looks like he's 6.
Yeah. He looks like one of those big cyborg guys out there doing the thing. Yeah, like as with him going so late, the possible room for ROI is humongous.
Oh yeah, he will be an immediate I'm keep putting him on my watch list after the draft, because nobody's going to take him in a normal standard league, right? Best balls, maybe I'll take a stab here and there. Super deep leagues like Scott Fish, we'll have him. But yeah, my normal home leagues and just industry leagues where just like a standard format, he will be a guy on the watch list, so that after week 1 or 2 I'll be like, yes. Unless I have Kelsey or something like that. But
true.
All right, man. So we like to finish up here with our standings prediction for the NFC East. So what do you got? Legit. Don't want to be surprised.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, as all of us are aware, doing this on an annual basis with the NFC East is impossible.
Yes.
But
it is.
So maybe you should pick the Commanders, right?
There you go. I mean, I feel good about picking, and oh God, I hate saying this. It's good. Dallas. Okay, all right, fine, okay. I'll vomit.
Drink while you're saying that.
Yeah, I'll vomit off there. It'll be fine. I'm gonna have to go take a shower after this. So, Dallas probably first.
that Philly defense, man, like honestly, that'll keep like even if Hurts struggles, I feel so good about that secondary that they've built up, man. And also just like straight up, if you're playing in a league with DST, and like I think it was mentioned earlier, like that early schedule, super good. If you're just gonna like wait, just, stream the entire year, but you want to take that team with a good stretch to begin with to get you on your path, the Eagles are the team to do that. So yeah, like Dallas, Philly, the Commanders will be right there between 2 and 3. I think. I feel like it's going to be a battle for that second place for sure. And then, how many? I have a question for. How many games do we even think the Giants can win? Because we know they're 4th, but exactly how bad are they is the question.
Bad.
4.
Yeah. Ugh.
I'm gonna be real quick. My picks are exactly the same as Herms.
I'm going
Commanders, Giants,
Birds, Washington.
Of course you do.
Dallas, Giants. Giants get 6 wins.
Giants 6. Holy crap! It might be 3rd if you do that.
Write it down. 6 wins.
I was about to say second.
Suck on
Keith,
that,
you give him
Keith.
6
You're
wins.
welcome.
That's like a lot. All right, man. All right, Herms. Before we let you go, thank you for hanging out tonight. Great time, man. Again, I gotta get that kazoo in the intro somehow, man. That is phenomenal. We gotta figure this out. I love it, dude. That's awesome. But anyway, man. Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and what you got going on the season and where.
Well, if you want to follow more of this on the Twitter timeline, you can do so by following me at Herms NFL. I also have a podcast, The Lateral Show, a sideways look at fantasy football. We debut episodes every single week, typically coming out on Thursdays on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, wherever Anchor puts it. I don't know. I don't know where it's actually found. Anchor does that work for me. So just look for the show. You'll find it. It'll
everywhere,
be cool.
By the way.
There you go. So yeah, everywhere. You can follow the show on Twitter at The Lateral FF. And then when it comes to my written content, you can find that over at fantasypros.com. Nice. I have some pretty fun stuff coming up. I had an article drop recently about the Broncos wide receiver situation. If you're interested in trying to parse through that and figure out what some of my thoughts are, I did some research so you can find the answers. So who knows? Who knows? A little bit, but I think I'm starting to come to a conclusion. But either way, that's really that's about it as far as I'm aware. But hey, if you're going to be at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio, I will also be there. So if you want to say hi, I look like this. Just use this as a point of reference. If you forget, my Twitter profile picture is also me. So if you just see like a guy about 6 feet tall, a lot of tattoos, nose rings, yelling about Ronald Jones while being extremely drunk, it's me. So you can find me there as well. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Oh,
excellent.
Glad to have you on, man. This was a good time. So we're gonna let you go and we're gonna close up shop, and then I will definitely see you at the expo. Both of us are gonna be there actually.
Yeah.
So a bunch of us are gonna be there. Mike's gonna be there, the guy behind the mic. We got a lot of F6 people there, so we are looking forward to it, man. Hopefully we run into you. There's a lot of people there.
I was going to say, is Lepresto going to be there? We'll probably find him with Herms both screaming about Ronald Jones.
Yeah, right. Yeah, John Lepresto is a Ronald Jones truther. So, yeah, if I can convince him to go, then you guys can just, like, wear Ronald. I will buy you guys Rojo for life T-shirts if you both go somehow.
Yes.
You have to.
Oh yeah.
I will
And
absolutely
I will
do
one
it.
up
You
the
gotta
T-shirt
find
with
John
a
Lepresto
Rojo
on
for life
Twitter
fanny pack.
and yell at him and make him go and tell him I will buy you guys T-shirts. I'll make it happen somehow. So
I love this. I love this plan so much. This is wonderful.
all right, have a good night, man, and thank you for coming on again. See ya.
Of course.
All right. See you, Herms.
All right, AJ, closing it out quickly because it's late, but that was a good show, man. Very entertaining. So I think that's it, though, man. Unless you got anything to add.
No, I'm good.
All right, cool. Peace. Next week, NFC North. Bye.